Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, doing my spoiler discussion for the Netflix Death Note film. If you guys want to check out my spoiler-free review, I'll put a link in the description to that so you guys can check that out. See the movie, then come here, or just see the movie and then come back to this if you want to. I'm just going to start from the beginning. I have seen the anime. I'm a big fan of the anime. I'm just going to throw this out there. I like Code Geass. Code Geass is like Death Note, but better. That's just my personal opinion. I know people like Death Note, but Code Geass is like way cooler. Plus it has mechs. That's not why it's better, but it's just better. But just to throw this out there, going into this, first thing that happens, I'm just gonna go from beginning to end. What just was wrong? That's probably what this is gonna be. It's just me bitching about the movie. I'll try not to do that and just legitimately, objectively say this is what I like and don't like. Kind of like my spoiler-free review, just more detail. But first thing Light does, him giving the dude the test, like doing the answers for his test, I feel like that's not Light. I feel like what Light would have done, if anything, would have been to talk down to the dude about how he's not as smart as Light is. I feel like that's what Light would have done more than help a bunch of people cheat on tests and stuff like that. Like, he was always the genius character, but he was always a bit selfish. Like, that was like the whole point. And he may have done that. And I really can't remember. I did mention that. And so that may be in there, and that's maybe exactly what Light would do, and I just don't remember. But I just felt like that wasn't him. That probably is literally like in the beginning of the anime, and that's why I don't remember. It's probably like exactly like in the movie where it's literally, you know, one scene where he's helping somebody out. But I just felt like that's not something that Light would do. Probably from the anime, like I said. It's been years since I've seen it. I just felt like that wasn't him. Just from the stuff I do remember, and that's, I guess, because him at school was like the least important part of the entire series, so I don't even really remember anything about him being at school. So that might be a part of why I'm like, I don't feel like he'd help someone cheat, but that was such a non sequitur for the series. That's probably why I don't remember anything about him, even knowing any of the people from his school, because I feel like someone from his school, if I remember in the anime, someone from his school does end up coming back into the series later in the show, but it was such a useless part of the series. Like him, like the actual school portion was where he gets the Death Note. That's the only relevance that the school actually has. So, like I said, I don't remember, and I'm just being honest about that. I don't remember him at the school in the anime, so maybe that does happen in there, but I just felt like that wasn't really Light. And then, you know, the second thing that he does where he gets in front of the bully and, you know, he tries to help the kid, I was like, okay, that I could see Light doing. He does help out the little person, but Light is way cooler than this. Like, it would have, in the anime, that would have worked for Light. Like, even if someone tried to come at him, I feel like he could have found a way to actually make that work, because that's just Light's character. Like, that's how smart he was. He just seemed like a nerd, but he had like some other skills where it's like, surprise, I could do this little, at least this much to dodge a punch or, you know, throw a punch back. So stuff like that, it would work. Like, that would have worked for Light. He wouldn't have been like knocked out literally in one punch as well. It just made him less cool. Like, he just got knocked out, and then, you know, he gets busted for having all the papers in his backpack. Like, that's how screwed he was. He got punched, and then his backpack, I guess, magically opened. I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention if it was still open or not. But, you know, it's just open all of a sudden, and so he gets busted by that, gets sent to detention, and then we have, this is like the one scene I actually have to recommend to everybody when they watch it. But the scene when he first meets Ryuk, it starts off so cool. They have the shot of the marbles, and it's like, oh man, he's about to meet Ryuk. He sees Ryuk, and he has the most high-pitched, hilarious comedy scream ever. Like, that just would, like, that's where they just broke down. I was like, that's not Light, 100%. He screamed, and it was like a comedy movie, almost. It was like, it's what you would expect most people to do. But the fact that it's Light, he's not supposed to do that. Like, he's supposed to be super cool. Like, holy crap. Like, even if he said something, it'd be like, holy crap, what's happening to me? But instead, he did what a normal person, I think, would do, which was do an insanely high-pitched scream, and he runs towards the door. It was kind of a cool shot, though, the part where, like, all the desks are flipping, because we can't see Ryuk, but he's, like, flipping the desks and stuff like that. I thought that was actually kind of cool. But he sees the desk flipping, and then he screams again, and it's, like, a close-up of him against the glass, where he's, like, I don't know why the door would be locked. I mean, I know it's detention, but that's not how that works. But he was, like, screaming and, like, banging on the window, like, freaking out, and he did the same scream again, and I was, like, I was kind of sad, but it was so funny just the way he screamed, and I was like, I don't know why the F they let him scream like that. Like, it should have, even if he screamed, I don't know, a cooler scream, I guess. I don't know, because that just made me laugh. Like, I burst out laughing. I was like, whoa, I just didn't see that coming. Then he did it the second time when he was on the, at the door, like, banging on the window for some, I guess, like I said, to unlock the detention room door. But then he, like, hides under the desk, and he's freaking out and stuff. And then, after that, he, like, calms down. I thought it was, like, an instantaneous cool down mode. Because I was like, the way he just freaked out, and then he stands and looks at Ryuk, and I was like, he's over it super fast. There wasn't like any hesitation. It was almost like he was pissing himself, scared. Just pee your pants, scared. And then when he gets the chance to like stand up and just look at Ryuk, it was like, okay, interesting. I'm dreaming, but what's happening? And it was like, he's super calm. Like once he went through the dream thing and Ryuk was like, I like that. Like, it keeps you safe or whatever, which I thought was a cool line. He just calmed down instantly, and I was like, with the way he was freaking out, there's no reason he should have calmed down this much. Like, L would have been that calm from the very beginning, or Light would have been that calm from the very beginning, but he freaked the F out, and then it was just like, I am calm. And then he was, and I was like, alright, they went into the DeathNote. First death was crazy. Decapitate the dude, you see all the gushy stuff, just his head explodes and everything. I was like, huh, that was darker than I thought, which set a precedent for the rest of the film where they just show bodies just splatting all over the freaking place. Oh, the one where the dude, I think it was like the first dude he shows to Mia where he killed him with the truck and everything. That was the one where I was like, they clearly went over the top with that, because if you got hit by a truck, your body would not separate at the kneecaps like his body did. Like his body literally split in 3 pieces when he got hit by that truck. And I was like, that is not what would happen in real life, but it fit because every time somebody died, like when the people died, when they were falling off the building, the first dude they show, I noticed that his body like separated into pieces. Like every time they would do that sort of death, the bodies would like hit the ground and get separated, and like the arm, it would be like a perfect slice too, because it was, they did like CG wise, they couldn't go like full detail. It would be like someone hit him with a katana and just like boom, you split. That's what it looked like to me. Like every time I would notice it, because it would be like for a split second, I could see where they separated, and it was just like, all right, cut here, perfect slice, arm is off. And it was just like, it's fun. It was kind of funny how it looked when I noticed that, but I was fine even with like when they would go a little bit further with it, because like I said, your body would not separate like that if you got hit by a truck. Unless you were going like, they were going like insane, like they would have to go so much faster than what they were doing for his body to separate completely. Both legs like came off as he was like hitting the truck, and I was like, that just would not happen, but it fits because they're going like extra gory with it. So I was like, alright, still fine, but it did make me laugh a little bit, because I was like, your body would not separate like that in real life. But yeah, the deaths were cool. So, going through it and stuff, he has the DeathNote, he ends up with Mia, which is another scene where I was like, this doesn't feel like Light when he's got the DeathNote and stuff at school, and she's like, what's it about and stuff like that. And I was just curious. I was like, alright, well, how's this scene going to play out? And she's like, she was super cool about it. She was more Light than Light was in this, which is like a huge issue. But he was like, I can't tell you. And she was just like, okay. And then he was like, do you really want to know? And she was like, yeah, like I'm curious, sure. And so he was like, alright, come with me. And he was like kind of excited about it. I was like, they're just, the excitement and the way he does things just didn't feel like Light. So I'm just going to stop talking about that he's just not Light. So it goes through, that's where we get, that death and everything, and she starts to believe him. It's like, alright, let's use this. Let's start killing people and stuff like that. They start to go through the rules, which I thought was actually kind of cool. They went through the rules. I feel like they went through the rules more in this movie than they actually did in the actual anime, which I thought was fun. That was like one of the few things that they actually did more of, which I liked, than they did in the anime, because they would always show you all the rules when they would, like, the halfway mark of the episode, they would always show the rules, but they only talked about it like a couple of times where it was like, okay, any piece of the notebook can be used, which they talk about that, which is a huge thing. It becomes like, honestly, it's like one of the biggest parts of the entire anime series, honestly, is that any part of the notebook can be used to write names on, as far as the anime goes. And I'm going to try not to give too many spoilers away for the actual anime for people that are coming across this that haven't seen the anime. I'm going to try not to go like into crazy detail with exactly how they got certain scenes wrong or what would have happened or what did happen in the anime. So I'll try to avoid anime spoilers for people who have not seen it yet, because you should. I highly recommend the actual original series. But, they're going through. This is where we get our second montage. We have the opening montage. I mentioned this in my spoiler-free review. I didn't like any of the music that they used for like the montage sequences. The opening, I was like, this is fine. I just thought it was weird because it was like, it's DeathNote. I feel like they're doing the school thing where they're focusing on everyone doing what they're doing, and like Light is hardly even in the actual montage opening. Like, they just show all the other people who mean nothing in the end. But it was like, whatever. It's literally the beginning of the movie. Sure, just have a montage, show everybody's name in the credit for the credits and everything, and then just go into the movie afterwards. Easy way to do it. The second montage where Light and Mia actually start working together to kill people, I was like, okay, it's interesting because they're doing this stuff, and they have like the people who are worshiping Kira and stuff. They come up with a name and everything like that, and it was like, okay, some of this is cool, some of it's over the top. Like, they have the part where like they do the CG church like completely crumbling down. I was like, what was the murder there? Like, I was so curious when that happened, because it wasn't like, oh, this person got shot up, or this person, like, they explained everything pretty much. Like, this person was a terrorist, he like pulled the pin on the grenade and blew himself up in front of his men, and they were like killing off all these bad guys. And then they show like the church crumbling, and it was just random dialogue like, people are worshiping Kira. I was like, what happened there? Like, that's all I was thinking of when I read the I was reading, because it was subtitles were on, or the closed captioning was on, so I was like reading exactly what was happening, and I was like, I love that they explain every murder, and then it's just like this whole church is just collapsing. I was just like, I need to know what happened. Like, I'm too curious. Where they go through like detailed explanations. This person was shot up. This person killed themselves, and then this was just like a church fell, and it was like a full-on CG crumbling church, and I was just like, why did they put that in there and not tell me? Like, I'm gonna be curious. So it was just funny when I was watching that. And they go through, and it's Light and it's Mia. They're just making out and stuff and killing a bunch of people off. And the music was playing, and like I said, I didn't think it was nearly as cool as the anime. When that first happens in the anime, it's intense. And that's why I felt like every single song in this, outside of the chase sequence between Elle and Light, should have been changed. Like, all the music should have just been instrumental music to fit exactly what was happening. Because they chose like real songs, and I was hating like all the music. Just because I didn't think it fit what was happening. I didn't think like the music, because all the music was like pop music. That's why it didn't work. It was either pop music or like 80s music. I guess like 80s pop music. So none of it was really working for me for what was happening in the sequences. Like, in the anime, it's like orchestra, like symphony type music, where it's like super dramatic, and it's like people doing the scores, and it's mostly instrumental. But I believe there's some parts where it's like people actually singing. It's just like the that sort of thing. Like, it's super dramatic, but it's him writing. And of course, it's anime, so they make it like he's writing names, and they make it look like the most intense thing in the universe. But he's writing names, and people are just dying left and right, having heart attacks and falling off of buildings and getting hit by trucks and all this other stuff. People are just dying all over the place, and it's super intense. And then in this, it was like, oh, we're killing people off. That's super cool and super hot. Let's make out now and let's bang. And then we kill some more people, and it's super cool and super hot. And I was like, I don't know, it's not as cool, It's like them bonding over killing people wasn't as cool as just Light by himself, just writing these names like, this guy's horrible, he killed kids, or, raped kids, or whatever, and, this person is a terrorist, or this person does this. And he's just wiping people out, getting hit by trucks, heart attacks, that sort of thing. Which they never explained. I would love to, it was like the first thing in the anime to me. And I was like, why didn't they put the heart attack thing in there, where they just say, if they don't die, I think they do that because of what happens with Ryuk towards the end of the movie. But I was like, why didn't they put the heart attack thing in there? Because for people who don't know, this is not really a spoiler for the anime, but if you don't specify how the person dies, they just have a heart attack. That was like the thing. It was like, if you write how they, that they die, you just write the name, they have a heart attack. It's automatic. So it was like, okay, that's interesting. Because it was always specific in the movie. It was like, every time somebody died, he specifically wrote, this is how that person died. It was never just like, they have a heart attack, except for that one part where Ryuk like turned against him. It was like, you said dealer's choice. So it was like, okay, I feel like that's probably why they didn't do that. But I always thought that was interesting, because it was like, that was a part of the anime why he had to change things up, because he was just like, okay, sure, whatever. And it was like, there's like 100 million heart attacks. That's effing suspicious. It was like, okay, I gotta start doing some stuff to think. But that's not a part of it. It was like, they kind of, cut past that, and he's already just writing specific stuff for every person, which I don't think people would do every single time. It was like, you just die. Some stuff, yeah, it makes sense, especially like terrorist stuff. Sure, they take out other people with them. But it was just interesting. They're going through it, they're making out and getting attached. And then, of course, we cut to Japan, and that's where we get L. And so he goes through, it's this crazy nightclub, a boatload of people died off. And so L is like, alright, Kira is not Japanese. That was a misdirection. Which, by the way, I don't remember if this happened. I think it did happen in the anime, but it made more sense in the anime. Um, in this, it was like you don't have people like this. There were so many things where I was like, I'd be a better murderer than this dude, but you don't have every person you kill in prison write in perfect kanji. Justice for Kida or whatever, where he was like, none of these people spoke Japanese and everything. It was like, that makes it seem like you're throwing it off. Like, you don't have every single person do it in Japanese to be like, it's totally a Japanese person. Like, that's the first thing I was thinking, was like, that makes it too obvious that you're trying to throw people off to me. And I don't know, maybe I'm just weird and that's why it came to my mind. But I was like, that just makes it super obvious that you're not actually Japanese. You're just making every person do it in Japanese to try to throw the scent off, because that's what an idiot would do. If anything, you make it in English, like you make it your actual language to make it seem like that's where you're from. But you also just don't do that. You don't give yourself the name or anything like that, because I don't think they do that in the anime. I can't remember, it's been forever. But I don't think he comes up with the name. I think other people come up with it, because Kida does mean killer. So I think that's why, you know, that comes up in the anime. But in this, it was like, we have to have a name. It's like, let's make it Kida, because it kind of means killer in Japanese, and the origins are I think he said like Roman and Celtic or something like that, which I thought was a cool mini little lesson there. But I was like, okay, you know, they have to find some way to make it Kida, you know, so of course they do it that way. But it was just like, yeah, of course you're gonna bring suspicion to yourself. You made the name up yourself, and you make everyone write in Japanese. I was like, there's just stuff in here where it's like, if you think smart, you don't make your own name. You don't make a signature for yourself that can be connected literally anywhere. Like, you don't make up your own name. And he just does like the simplest stuff, and that's how Elle ends up finding him. And it's like, you know, he's in Seattle because I've been putting out stuff from the database, and you know, he's in the United States. I didn't think that made a lot of sense because they didn't explain it, but this is just me. I'm assuming he specifically put it in Seattle, because they kind of talk about the fact that the reason he knew Kida, you know, like / Light was in Seattle was because it was like, okay, so I had these connections that, like I said, I guess he you know, he hacked the database and all that stuff, but he put out the feelers, you know, to see who could track what and where it was happening, and I guess he only put that stuff in the United States. But even when I was watching it, I was like, okay, so did he just go state by state, like only this state has this killer and this state has this killer? Because they never explained that part. Because I'm like, yeah, if you put it in the database, sure, but he just said the database. It wasn't like this database, it was like the database of the FBI. Like, that could literally mean it's anywhere on the planet and anyone can connect to it. So they never really explained that part about him going to the United States. But the Seattle thing is what they do explain, because he was like, this specific person is like, you know, we attached these murders to Kida, but then a few days before, this guy died, like the first dude that Light shows to Mia. And it was like, that's how I found out that Kida was in Seattle specifically. And it was just like, well, that still doesn't explain the whole database thing, where it's like, what database? Like, the FBI database is the FBI. Like, it's across, you know, like, the FBI, yes, that's specific to the United States, but I guess that was supposed to be the point of, like, specifically the FBI database. And it's like, and I guess that makes sense a little. I wish they just explained it more, because like I said, with the situation Elle was in, it does make sense, because that's a Japanese thing, whereas like these two groups, you know, these two groups had a truce for like 10 years or whatever, and why would the FBI have tabs on them? That sort of thing. Like, they clearly weren't that big of a deal. So it's like, I guess doing that sort of thing does make sense. It's like, okay, that's why he went to the United States, but they didn't explain that much. Whereas like if they just put that one line in there, like, I put this specifically because the FBI would never track a group in Japan, that's why I know it's from the United States. But even then, I'm still like, just because it's the FBI, you can still, if you're a hacker, I would imagine you could still get through to that database from other countries. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. I was like, I feel like you'd still be able to just hack in if you have that ability. You can do that worldwide. It's the internet. So it still didn't make a lot of sense to me why he was there specifically in the United States. And then he specifically went to Seattle because they explained, like, you know, this is the murder. Which leads me directly to the end of the film with Light and his freaking dad, where his dad was like, I figured out it was you the whole time, because the first murder was the dude that killed your mom that you killed. And I mentioned this in my spoiler-free review. I did not think of that when I watched the movie, how dumb that was. But then afterwards, it's like, how does that make any sense that L figured out he was in the United States and he was in Seattle because of the dude who was holding his wife and son hostage, and that, you know, Light was the one that killed him, but he couldn't take the one extra step to be like, oh, one day, I'm pretty sure it was like the day before, someone else died as well, and it was a mysterious accident where a dude, I guess it wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. Like, I know it was a weird thing, it wasn't like he had a heart attack and it was like a fluke where a dude slipped and stabbed through the neck, but still, it just like never came up. I always thought that was weird, and his dad figured it out. He knew it was him because of that connection, but Light or L didn't look into that to be like, maybe this is something, it's a fluke, but maybe, and then connect that to Light's dad, and then of course to Light. And I'm just like, that's dumb. That doesn't make any sense that L would somehow get the murder that happened the day before the big mob murder, but he somehow couldn't, or the day after the big mob murder, but he didn't get the guy who died in the restaurant, even though that was a huge mob deal, where this guy, this guy died. Like, he was a mob boss. That would be a big deal, with the FBI. Like, he killed a cop's wife, he got off for murder and all this other stuff. But somehow, L just didn't seem to take one extra day. He didn't go back one day further or 2 days back to see that this other dude died in a mysterious way as well. Where it was like this crazy fluke of a dude falling. And like I said, it wasn't nearly as bombastic, but it's like, why wouldn't you take that extra step? Considering it's L, he would have taken that step for real. And it was just like, that's just dumb. It doesn't make sense he would have stopped right there. But I don't know, that's just me. Then we have all this stuff, like, I just realized how long I've been doing this video already. I'm not even, like, to the Mia and Ryuk stuff, so I'll kind of shoot through that, mostly because that's the stuff I like. Ryuk messing with Light and, like, doing the loophole stuff, because I thought he did kill those officers, and then we find out that it was Mia the whole time. I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like, Ryuk not liking Light is really cool to me. I thought that was great, because they have a little bit of contention in the anime, but in this, they're like straight up enemies, and that mostly comes from Light being stupid, and then Mia being super hardcore. Whoa, that was loud. Mia being like super hardcore and like being the one that actually killed the officers, and even putting Light's name in there, that was super cool too. I was like, I like the fact that they're both kind of against Light, but sadly, that comes from the foundation of Light being really annoying and dumb. Like, he's not super cool, he's not super smart. The only thing that he did that was smart was the fact that he was cheating for a bunch of people on the test, and at the very end, he set up the whole situation of the Ferris wheel falling and the specific doctor helping him out and having the heart attack, and then the pedophile getting the book and doing some extra stuff with the names, and then giving him the book back at the very end of the movie. That was like the only smart thing he did the whole way through. Other than that, there was nothing to it. Like, even, oh my god, I didn't even mention this. He put his real number in Wateri's phone. That was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I was like, he put his actual, I was like, this has got to be a burner phone. He put his real effing number. It, like, Wateri called this specific number. That's just dumb. That is dumb. You know what? That's the perfect way to end. That was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. So I'm going to end it there because my camera's already going to cut off. I don't need to go any further into how stupid some of this stuff is. He put his actual number, and like, not a burner phone. He didn't do anything smart. He put his real number. Also, were they not checking the girlfriend? They didn't think that was, like, L wasn't smart enough to think to check the girlfriend at all. It was like, it's just the girlfriend. No biggie. It's L. Dumb stuff. Some dumb stuff in there. Yeah, that's a great way to, I think that's a good way to end. My camera's going to cut off probably before I do my outro, but would love to know what you guys thought about the movie, so please comment below, let me know.